If everything that you offered wasn't enough, offer your absence. When you go to a restaurant, salt typically isn't on the menu. You don't order a meal and go, I hope they, remember to add the salt. But then sometimes you take a bite and realize that the salt wasn't there. For whatever reason, maybe the chef just forgot. It's not there in this meal. And you remember the last time when you ordered this meal, just how much better it was because it had the salt in it. Sometimes we spend so much of our time trying to convince someone of our value. We over explain ourselves, we overgive, we try harder, we try to become more lovable, more impressive, more useful, hoping that they'll eventually realize what they truly have. But salt, it doesn't do that. And that's why I really love this salt analogy. Salt does not sit on the table begging for somebody to notice its value. It doesn't become more valuable just because somebody notices it, and it certainly doesn't become less valuable just because somebody doesn't appreciate it. Its value was already there. Whether somebody values the salt or doesn't value the salt, its value is still there. You just gotta get the right people to appreciate it. Sometimes you only learn the importance of something when it's no longer there anymore. Stop trying to convince somebody about what you bring to their life. If they don't appreciate the difference that you make, you don't have to keep adding more of yourself to prove it. Sometimes you simply have to step back because your absence may reveal something that your presence never did. And remember, your value doesn't increase just because somebody finally notices it. Just like the salt, you don't have to be on the menu to matter. You've always been enough, and sometimes people feeling your absence will make them realize what you really brought to the table. When everything you've offered isn't enough, that's not a sign to keep giving more. The answer is to maybe offer less of it or nothing more at all. Because there comes a point where you need to stop asking, what else can I give? And instead start asking, why am I giving so much to somebody who doesn't even appreciate it or see its value? Think about how many times you've explained yourself one more time, given them another chance, became more understanding, lowered your expectations, became more patient, made excuses for their behavior, gave more attention, gave more of your time, gave more forgiveness, and gave more access to you. And you kept thinking, oh, maybe if I give even a little bit more, they'll appreciate me more, even though I feel like they appreciated me more in the beginning, but now that I'm giving them more and more, like I maybe stop. What if needing to give them more isn't the problem? What if you're not lacking anything? What if you were simply giving to somebody who has just become comfortable with receiving? Because there's definitely a big difference between somebody who appreciates what you're giving and somebody who has just become accustomed to getting it. And sometimes when somebody gets accustomed to what you're bringing to them, they stop noticing the value that it brings. Because you've probably noticed that when you first meet somebody and, you're giving them value, they appreciate it, but then after a while, it just becomes kind of a given that you're going to keep giving these things to them. It can really leave you feeling drained. It's like you're always pouring from an empty cup to fill them up, and then there's no reciprocation at all. They don't notice all the little things you do anymore. They don't notice that you're always available to help them because you care. They don't notice the emotional support. They start to feel complacent with your generosity and your presence. You're no longer a novelty to them anymore, which ends up meaning they feel like they're always guaranteed access to you. And that is when you need to understand something. Familiarity can make people take for granted what they once cherished. And that is why I love the salt analogy. Salt, usually not the main event at a meal. Nobody orders a meal and says, I'm so excited about the salt. Well, actually, I do. I love salt quite a bit, but that's besides the point. Typically, it's not the thing that you think about when you're getting a meal. It's just there quietly making everything better until it's gone. And then suddenly, it's noticed. Oh my gosh, the salt isn't here anymore. Like, everything tastes so bland. Like, I kind of just expected it to be there. And that's kind of exactly what happens when somebody has been accustomed to your presence. They don't necessarily understand how much you've been contributing until you stop contributing. They don't necessarily understand how much peace you've brought until the peace is gone. They don't realize how much emotional support you've given until they have to carry everything themselves. They don't realize how often that you made things easier until you're no longer making them easier. And that's sometimes why absence can communicate what words never would. And this isn't because you're trying to manipulate somebody, not because you're trying to punish them, not because you're hoping they'll panic and come running back, but because sometimes you need to remove yourself from a situation where your presence is being taken for granted, where you feel like you always just give, and everyone just takes everything from you without giving anything ever back. And I'm not talking about, the generosity here and there, like, oh, I can't believe I've done like one thing for them and they've never done anything back. I'm talking about this is a pattern. This is like years in the making. That one day you wake up and you're just like, wow, I feel like they used to respect me a lot more when I wasn't so close with them. The video is more so talking about when you feel like people are taking advantage of you, when you feel like they just expect that you're always gonna be there. And it's not selfish at certain points to wonder what people's intentions are if you are always the one giving. I'll step away. I'll step away because I'm no longer willing to participate in something that makes me feel unvalued. That's self-respect. And you have to be willing to find out, because if your absence doesn't change anything, you just learn something incredibly valuable. You learn that you were carrying more of the relationship than you realized. And yes, that can hurt. But clarity ends up hurting a lot less than continuously trying to get somebody's attention or realization like, hey, I still matter. Please don't take me for granted anymore. Because when you keep giving more and more, you can become, trapped in the question of, what else do I need to do? Why am I always the one becoming drained when they're constantly getting recharged by my energy? Maybe you've already done enough. Maybe you've already explained enough. Maybe you've already forgiven enough. Maybe you've already shown up enough. Maybe you've already proven that you care. Because sometimes people don't understand your words until your behavior changes. And I'm not saying that you should suddenly just become cold. And I'm definitely not saying to start playing games. I'm not saying you should intentionally ignore somebody to make them notice you again. No. I'm just saying stop giving unlimited access to people who are giving you limited effort. Stop being constantly available for somebody when they only show up when it's convenient for them. Stop making somebody a priority when they've continuously shown you that you're just an option. Because at the end of the day, somebody can need you without appreciating you. Someone can depend on you without respecting you. Someone can miss you without being capable of even treating you properly. That's why your goal should not be to make somebody miss you. Your goal should be to stop abandoning yourself just to stay present in somebody else's life. And here's something else I want you to remember. You don't have to announce your absence. You don't have to write a 5-paragraph message. You don't have to explain every reason why you're stepping back. You don't have to say, fine, I'm done. Now you're going to see what you lost. No. Because when you are truly done overgiving, you don't need an audience. You just change your behavior. One that makes you feel like you are self-respecting and valuing yourself. You stop chasing. You stop initiating every single conversation. You stop fixing everything. You stop giving more than you're receiving. And you redirect that energy back towards yourself. And if somebody finally notices the value once you're gone, that is information. But be careful, because somebody missing you isn't the same thing as somebody changing. Somebody saying, I miss you, doesn't automatically mean they'll say, oh, yeah, I understand why you hurt and I understand why you left. Somebody wanting you back doesn't mean they've magically become capable of treating you better. Don't let their reaction to your absence become more important than the reason why you left. This is often where people get stuck. They finally walk away and then the person comes back. They feel wanted again and then they just go back to the same dynamic it was before. The same dynamic that they were trying to escape in the first place. Don't do that. Please don't do that. If your absence causes somebody to recognize your value, great. But what matters is what happens after they recognize it. Do their actions change? Do they become more consistent? Do they take responsibility? Do they show you that they actually understand? Or do they simply just miss the comfort of having you? Because there's a difference between missing you and them just missing what you did for them. And you deserve to know which one of those two it is. Words are just words. Action needs to happen in order for their words to have weight ever again. So if everything you've offered isn't enough, don't offer more. Offer your absence, not to punish, not to manipulate, but because sometimes the most powerful thing that you can do is stop trying to convince somebody to see your value that they should have just seen from the start. Just simply step back, become a little less available. Stop overextending and let the space just speak for itself. Because salt isn't on the menu. It's not the main course. It's not something people usually think about. But when it's missing, you feel it. Become absent when staying is costing you your self-respect. Because the ultimate goal isn't for them to just realize what they've lost. The ultimate goal is for you to realize what you were losing while you were staying. Your peace, your time, your energy, your confidence, your ability to fully be yourself. And maybe that's the real lesson. Sometimes you don't need to make somebody understand your value, because your value, it's always been there. You just need to stop giving them access to it for free. The right people won't need your absence in order to notice and value your presence. They'll appreciate the salt while it's still on the table.